Marge.
Yeah, it's at the shop. It was a cool old wagon. I really like it. I surprised a few people with it because they're like, "That's not your kind of car." But everyone thinks I just like Mustangs, but it's just a neat old wagon.
What brand is it?
For Plymouth, 59 Plymouth. It's got the big wings on it, the really big wings, like almost Cadillac size. Oh, can you hear us, the dude? Kiwi, yes, looks like we're live. It's actually working. I thought it was my internet, guys, but it was something to do with YouTube.
It's a YouTube thing.
It just would not work. So tried everything and refreshed it and did everything else, and then we just had to shut it down.
We've been talking away.
For 20 minutes.
Yeah, we were solid 15 minutes. We were chatting away, thinking you guys were listening. Yeah. So we told a whole lot of stories. Now we're going to have to try and redo it.
Yeah, it's all Chris's fault.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers to,
and it's genuinely not the bourbon.
To analog guys in a digital world. Yeah,
this is Murphy's Law at its best. Like I pride myself at being on air at 7 o'clock. I say it's going to be 7 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Some other people I've done live stream with, like they're there at 7:10, 7:15. They'll wait,
Yeah.
But like I like to say I'm going to be there at 7, and I'd sit there waiting for it to roll over to 7 and hit the button. But you weren't there. We thought you were there, but you weren't there. So, probably not going to do our total views any good, but what it is. Here we are.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging in, I guess, right?
Introducing Kevin Tates. TC Pennick.
Hello.
Two very talented car builders, very talented gentlemen, and two very good friends. So here they are.
And we've all built cars together.
Yeah.
Same with thrashes.
Yeah, we've done multiple SEMA thrashes, trying like do 400 hours work in 26.
Yeah.
Stupid stuff like that, and then gone and drowned our sorrows at SEMA for 4 days.
Yeah.
Which
it's a heck of a way to go to Vegas. Stay up for like a week straight before you go to Vegas.
Yeah. It's a lie because you don't see Vegas. You see this convention center and the hotel and the bar, and the convention center and the hotel and the bar, and that's so it's except for the times that you and I've gotten caught in downtown rush hour traffic with a prototype vehicle with no gas in it and no electrical anything working, cooling systems failing. Yeah, that's
guys. Yeah, so sorry about all this, man. We just what was happening was you guys were commenting, but we didn't realize you couldn't see us. You were, and then it started to dawn on me that we only had a handful of viewers, and there was a few comments coming up like nowhere near as many, and I thought something's not quite right here.
Yeah, and we gave away $1,000, and you missed it. So, damn it.
But you got to show them what we're working on this week or the last 2 days.
So me and TC are working on this car. It's a one-of-one car. It belongs to the Lane Motor Museum in Nashville. If you ever get the chance, go to the Lane Museum when you're in Nashville. A bunch of really cool cars there, mostly French. But this car, they had asked me to spray this car, and it's turned into a little bit more, which is why TC's down helping me on it. But it's called the Aurora safety car. Look it up online. It's a one-of-one prototype. It was built by a guy that was a Catholic priest and also a car designer. And he was going to debut this thing at the 1955 World's Fair. And he built the car and it didn't quite make it. And it fell into the shadows. It's been restored once in the 80s, and now it's being restored faithfully to the original design by the Lane Museum and the people over there. So they asked me to spray it, but it's really, really bizarre. It's a very weird looking car. So here is the Aurora safety car. Can you see that? I'm trying to get rid of the glare and tilt the phone. So there's the Aurora. That's a picture of the restoration that was done in the 80s.
And for those of you thinking to yourself, wow, that's ugly, you're 100% correct.
Yeah, show them a picture of it now.
So this is a picture of it right now as it was loaded off the trailer. Of course, the hubcaps are gone, and all the glass, all of this glass is all plexiglass. It's all molded, aircraft styled glass, and the thing is enormous. It's super long and very wide and huge. Anyway.
Phil Buckley, love the Kev shirt on Kev. There we go.
Super Kev.
Super Kev.
Yeah.
He wasn't actually on the ground then. He was actually levitating slightly when he lifted up.
Absolutely, yeah. So the
Could have been a
Aurora,
bourbon, but, you know.
the Aurora is eating our lunch, but we got an enormous amount of work done today. You know, it's so I want to say out loud, the three guys in this room, there's very few people that I've worked with in shops that I can work with, and I know that whatever they're doing, I can completely trust and turn my back on. And I feel the same way. I feel like if Chris says, you know, Kevin's going to do a paint project, he doesn't have to think about it.
No.
And if TC is doing an engine thing or whatever, fabbing or whatever. So it's such a cool thing to be able to work with these guys, and they're so talented. And I think it's the truth. I mean, there's car guys, and then there's these guys, and I'm out of my league. I'm a good painter and stuff, but these guys are Renaissance men when it comes to that stuff. So yeah, it's pretty wild. But
it's one of them love-hate relationships. So yeah, it's a lot of fun working on the car, but stuff like we've done for the last 2 days is.
Well, I hate fiberglass anyway, and this thing, I've been itching for 2 weeks. And I was working on this thing a solid week before you even got there.
Yeah,
But
I hate working on fiberglass.
yeah.
It's quite neat to form and create with fiberglass, but then as soon as you got to cut it, sand it, do everything, it's bloody awful.
All right. So the dude says it kind of looks like a snow shovel up front. Well, that's interesting because it's called the safety car because it was supposed to be a safe vehicle to get into impact. It's kind of a scooped front end, so if they hit a pedestrian, they would roll off of it instead of. You know,
that's an interesting plan. You can test that one out, TC, and let me know how it works, and I'll go second once you give it the stamp of approval.
The doors are suicide doors. It's on a '54 Buick chassis. It's got the nailhead engine, the power glide transmission. It's a great running car. It lights up. You hit the key once, and it lights and just sits there and on.
It's a Buick now,
Yeah. But it's fun, you know. And how often do you get to work on something that's one of one? It's the only one in existence.
That's pretty rare.
Yeah.
It's very well. I mean, it's a rare car, and it's a rare thing to get that opportunity to work on it.
Yeah.
So as ugly as it is, it's still something you can say you've done, isn't it?
When it's going to Amelia Island.
It's supposed to go to Amelia Island, which is.
Well, I mean, it's a piece of history, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
You know, like
and it was lost. It was lost for decades.
Oh, really?
And then resurrected, and then restored, and now it's being restored again. So it's a historically significant thing. But anyway,
and we hope to be done with our deadline of it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
This driveway of misfits would be great for the Death Race 2000.
Yeah. Roll off after breaking their ankles.
Yeah. Dr. Art. Hey, we're live at last, Dr. Art. Yeah. I mean, what a mess that was. We needed your technical genius over here to actually try and help us as retards get back online. But I swear it was nothing I did wrong. We tried everything with the internet and messing around, and then we just shut the old one down, started it up, and it just worked instantly. So I don't know. But it just didn't give us any sign that it wasn't working.
No.
We were just jabbering along.
We're yabbering along and no one's commenting. And I'm like, this is really weird. But yeah, we had a great 15-minute conversation between the three of us.
Yeah.
All right. So here's a technical question. Kathleen Mitchell says, getting ready to paint, is it really necessary to go epoxy 2K base coat clear? In order, I guess. Epoxy 2K base coat clear. Can you just do 2K single stage down to bare metal? No. Paint doesn't like bare metal. Paint doesn't like bare fiberglass. Paint doesn't like powder coat. Paint doesn't like aluminum. You need to have an interface. You need to have a layer of what I call a tie coating. It's a coating that paint is comfortable with sticking to, that is also comfortable with the substrate, with what you're putting it on. And you have to have that layer of something that's going to stick really well to your bare metal, and that is going to be friendly for your paint coating. So you can't bypass that.
And something you showed me years ago was that Pickle X20.
Yeah.
If you pickle that metal and then put that epoxy on there,
it's going to
have no more problems.
Yeah.
So I've never had a blister or an issue since I've been doing that method with the pickle.
This stuff is a metal treatment. It's a phosphatizer. I think Osfo is a similar thing. but it's a mild acid and a phosphatizer. It's a metal treatment, and it sets up your metal for great adhesion for an epoxy coat if you want to do that. So
yeah, and it's good to do that right after it gets in the booth. That way, nobody's hands or anything's on it.
Right.
Because one time I had this old boxer dog, and I just happened to notice him go by, and he licked the door of a car right before it was going in the booth, and if I would have seen that,
that was Cash, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. He's licking on the side of the car, and just luckily I saw him do that, But doing the pickling after it's in the booth, it'll neutralize and clean all that. But if you wouldn't have caught that, then you could have blisters.
Mark in the middle of your door.
Well, or a year later, you got lifting paint off that metal.
So Kathleen, don't look at it like you got to do extra steps. Don't. That's the wrong thinking with that. Look at it like you're giving your work surface an opportunity to make it even better for the paint to sit on it. Right? A coat of primer, it's going to make the paint stick. But in a coat of high build that you can sand down and make it flatter, smoother, your paint's going to look that much better. So there's no shortcuts in baseball, right? There's no shortcuts in the paint and body world. You just got to go through the steps. Yeah.
And then no matter how good a painter, a buffer, or whatever you are, if you don't do those bottom layers right, you'll have an issue later on, and you're doing it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, SPI epoxy absolutely cannot really. Southern Polyurethanes, SPI, really good coatings. I've used that. I use their clear coat particularly. Epoxy cannot be used over an acid treatment. That's interesting because polyesters you can't use a polyester over Piclex or any kind of an acid wash.
You talking about like that poly primer?
Yes, you absolutely should not put that over top of the pickle.
Yeah. Well, say we pickle it and then epoxy it, and then we do our work,
So you get that barrier.
Yeah, but like we'll do that even before we even start working on the car. Get it blasted, get it pickled, get it epoxied, and then do all of our work on it, and then you can sand and spot in or whatever. But the rust and oxidation is evil,
Kathleen Mitchell, thoughts about single stage? A bit of you, Q.
Thoughts about single stage. I'm going to show you a car that I did with single stage. TC helped me build this car. It's on paper. It's exactly like Carol Shelby's Super Snake, except for it looks like a Miata. But yeah, here we go. So this is.
I like single stage. Unless it's metallic.
So that's the Rocket Miata. That's a single stage paint job. And the way I did that one is I did the body work. Actually, a good friend of mine, Jeremy Winters, did the body work and got it into final prime for me. And I used single stage. It was an inexpensive brand of single stage. And I used a clear on my last coat, except for I mixed the paint and the clear coat together, blended it together. And that made it look like a base clear. It gave me a smoother surface because it lays out flatter. And it gave me some material to polish, so where when I'm sanding it and buffing it, I'm not getting right down into the pigment. So single stage is fine, and you can do things like that to make it look deeper and make it easier to surface down. And it's more affordable than a two-stage system. But honestly, by the time I did all of that, did the integrated clear, all that kind of stuff, I might as well use a two-stage system.
Right.
Right. The reason we did that car with single stage was because I was working with Summit Racing, and they have their own brand of paint.
Right.
And they wanted to show their affordable line to show that you can get a really nice paint job out of a single stage paint. And we did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that car still looks
still looks good. Yeah.
And I showed the tricks. If you go to summitracing.com, I've got 2 or 3 videos on there of the tweaks that I did, like the integrated clear, different techniques that you can use to make a single stage look really, really good. And those videos they're on the Summit Racing YouTube channel. They're getting, I think close to 500,000 views. So people are really interested in those techniques, but they're out there. So if you want to dive down that rabbit hole, go to summitracing.com and go to their, I can't remember what their garage site is, but it's tech videos.
But your metallics will be a lot easier in base clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the big
thing. Because this car we're fixing to paint, he wants it done in single stage silver.
Right.
Metallic.
Yeah, because
that's one shot at it.
Yeah, and if you notice like the mouth of that car and stuff, you're going to be spraying it. It's going to be tough.
Yeah,
no doubt. Because some of the areas in the grill area, you can't even get the gun in there.
No,
I don't know how you're going to paint that. I'm glad I'm not painting.
Mini guns. It's too much of it to paint with the mini gun.
Luckily, it's two-tone. You know, the bottom's black, so it
Yeah.
gives you a little bit of a.
It's just super tight. It's just going to be, and today I did primer on the outside of the body. So that was kind of like my rehearsal as to how I can get into all the little weird areas and stuff like that. So, and I drug the air hose into the wet primer, and the gun cups it scraped through the wet primer. So I know that I have the potential of messing up horribly. So
that primer came out wonderful. Tell them about how you did the primer on that.
Okay, so I did this on my Paint Education U. I've got a private Facebook group for people that don't want to throw rocks at people on the internet and still ask technical questions and not get a sarcastic answer. It's called Paint Education U. Check it out if you want to. But what I did, typically with the primer, you paint body guys will know this. With a thicker material, you have to have a larger fluid tip, right?
Yeah.
You have to have like a primer surfacer is a very thick, very viscous material. So you use a larger fluid tip. Typically when I'm painting, I'm using a 1.3 millimeter or a 1.2 millimeter. That's a very small fluid tip. And this primer, the recommendation on it is a 1.6 or a 1.8. That's a big hole compared to thing. But what I did with this primer is that I put it through a 1.3 tip, and I used a 10-degree higher than ambient temperature reducer, so it stays wetter longer, so it flows.
Right.
My pattern shrunk down a little bit, so I had to move a little faster. My overlap was a little tighter, but it slicked out like glass because the droplets are smaller with the smaller tip, right?
Right.
So I outsmarted the clear into laying down like a sheet of plastic. It was very, very smooth, almost no texture in this high build primer at all.
Wow.
It took me a little longer to spray it because you're traveling a little bit faster, a little bit closer, and your overlaps are tighter.
Right.
So it's more work, but the outcome is way easier to sand.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe not more work time. You're not sending out orange
sure.
film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you include
And that's what we're kind of shooting for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brad Hudson says, hello from Canada. Hey, Brad, how you doing, buddy? How's it going, eh? I'm a BC boy, you know?
He knows that.
Now we've got Beagle Bob. Is there a good primer for bed liner? What would you put under bed liner?
Under bed liner? Actually, I use U-Pole Raptor for their spray and bed liner if I'm doing it myself. And they have their own epoxy primer.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So
you have their own
Yes.
epoxy primer. Okay.
Yeah, and it works great. If you follow the instructions, it won't let you down. So an epoxy primer under the U-Pole Raptor liner. And
so is that like any epoxy primer, or you really think you should stick with the U-Pole one?
I'm a big fan of staying with a family of chemistry. You know, staying within, I don't want a fruit salad of manufacturers on my workbench. It never serves you. It never does.
Right.
You can get cheaper hardener, cheaper epoxy, whatever. Stay in the lane. These chemists develop these product lines to be not interchangeable, but to be compatible with each other, layer on layer on layer. So always, whenever you can, stay in the lane. So if you're going to use a U-Pole bed liner, just get the U-Pole primer.
Yeah.
Technically, probably, I could say 90% somebody else's epoxy will work. But if that 10%, then the bed liner flakes out when you put a spare tire in it.
Yeah, then it's another trucker to redo it.
Yeah, then you're in big trouble.
It's pretty hard to feather out the edge of that bed liner.
Did you ever meet Mike and Avery? Are you talking about the Rust Valley guys? So why does Rust-Oleum suck so bad? Nah, there's no such thing as bad paint. There's only misunderstood paint, and I'll leave it at that. So no, I have never met those guys, but I'm good friends with JF Lanier and a couple of other guys that have custom cars out of the South Central British Columbia area.
Right.
Yeah.
Phil Buckley, what do you think of failing clear coat? Is it UV? Are there better ways to protect the clear coats? UV kills clear.
UV kills clear. So here's what happens. Patina these days with a two-stage paint job is flaking off clear coat, right?
Right.
So what happens is that the UV energy that oxidizes, that degrades, it beats the heck out of the clear coat, and then it starts to oxidize a color layer underneath. So you have now a separation. You've got the base color literally rotting underneath the clear, and it delamps.
Yeah.
So some of your budget car lot jobs and less expensive paint jobs, or maybe somebody that didn't want to put 3 coats of clear on, and it was a 3-coat recommended film, or they used a cheap clear. They went outside the lane, right? They used a cheap clear on the color just to get the job done. I can spend $200 on a setup instead of $700 on a setup. Well, guess what? There's no UV screen in the cheap clears, and it just fails. So that's what I think about that. Failing clear is terrible. It is UV, 100% fill. Yeah. Are there better ways to protect clear coats? Yes. Yeah, there's a litany of ways to do that. But the best thing is to leave enough of it on there to where you have your UV screen. Guys make the mistake of sanding it flat and cutting it down, making a show car paint job, and taking off 2/3 of the mill thickness. Right. And now they've robbed it of all the strength. Right. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, well, you're basically thinning the sunscreen coating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then you can flow clear.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty good method.
For sure. So I've done that on a bunch of different custom paint jobs. You do your paint job and you sand it all flat with 600, and then you put another 2 coats of a slow drying clear, and it sheets out like glass. And so now you have your sandwich back. Now you've got your UV protection back on top of that, and it flows out so flat you don't have to do aggressive sanding and polishing, just maybe some nibs or something like that. And then you build back the strength with that clear coat. So that's what I would recommend.
And it looks so good when you do that.
Yeah.
Not bad paint, just bad prep. Just I don't want to say the words bad. It's just misunderstood prep. So what people with the rattle can stuff, I'm assuming you're talking about spray can stuff. People make the mistake of coloring with it instead of painting with it. There's no such thing as a 1-coat paint job. You have to put layers on, or you don't get any strength. You don't get any like impact strength, and you don't get any UV strength. Right. So people that do, my good friend Derek Vieira does his suspension rebuilds with his rattle can stuff, and I'm rebuilding the bearings, and here goes the main bearings, and and he does that with the rattle can. His tongue in cheek and stuff like that. But when you paint like that, all you're doing is coloring. So that's what I say. It's misunderstood paint. You don't respect the material enough to do the paint job with it. And it's fine if you're doing satin black and you want to bracket satin black. Don't stop at 1 coat. Read the can. It's 2 to 3 coats, right? With 10 minutes between for flash. Yeah. So you have to paint with it.
Yeah. And I know what you're saying. And sometimes when you've just got that one little bracket and you're just trying to get it done, and you just hit it and it's black and it's like perfect.
But the one thing that I've learned over
years
years and years of doing this is you can't cheat the process. You have to commit to the process. You just do.
Yep. Well, I've noticed too with spray cans, I get a better job if I put it on the first coat light and let that bite in, then put another coat over that light, and then work my way up. So if you put it on heavy at one time, it'll build up and it'll flake off.
Right. Yeah. Well, because it stacks, and there's so much solvent in that first layer that you don't have time to let it flash out.
And that kind of works with any kind of paint,
Yep. Oh yeah.
So I always do a tack coat on just about anything. I don't know if y'all do tack coats, but I use that first coat on.
I try and be patient enough when I'm doing those little bits and pieces, but
it's hard, man.
It is hard. It is a challenge.
But if you can get a good tack coat on it all the way around, real even, boy, it wants that next coat, and it'll hold it.
No, you're absolutely right. And as Kevin says, you read the instructions, 2 to 3 coats, and
that works real good on vinyl. Like if you're dyeing vinyl, if you put that first one on real thin, and then the next one real thin, it'll. Jan Bond showed me that.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Jan. So,
Jace, hello from the Waikato. How are you, man? Yep, I know the Waikato well. Good Kiwi boy.
Yeah. Who is the guy with the paint overspray on his eyelashes? I don't know. Who is that? Which one of us?
It's not me, because I ain't been painting. It must be one of you two.
I guess. I don't know. Have I got overspray on my eyelashes?
No, that's your mascara.
Oh, yeah.
You've done a bunch of paint today. Prime anyway.
Oh, we painted and primed today.
Oh, you did, didn't you?
Yeah. We jammed out and base cleared. And
we did a lot in 9 hours.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I'm trying to buff a car with faded clear, and no matter what I do, the compound gets gummy and leaves a film that nearly impossible to remove. Any idea what I'm doing wrong? I'm using Maguire's compound. Compound gets gummy. Are you doing it outside? Let me know if you're doing it outside or if you're in a shop area. When you try and do compounding and polishing outside, it just super dries the compound and it'll smudge and stuff like that. But
sometimes in that situation, I have a spray bottle and I'll just miss the bonnet or miss
Yeah.
The panel had a little.
The bonnet?
Yeah.
What part of America are you from? That's supposed to be my line of bonnet. He's about as American as you can be. He's calling it a bonnet.
Chemical reaction. Yeah, and honestly, the Maguire's compounds, the ones that I've used are not water-based. I transitioned years ago when I was still in collision repair to a water-based rubbing compound over top of the solvent-based rubbing compounds. For the main reason is that they're so much easier to clean out of the cracks. If you're the solvent-based stuff, and it was the 3M and the Maguire's that I was using, and they may have changed their formulations. I don't know. I don't use them anymore. But I changed to a water-based. It was a Norton compound called Liquid Ice. It was a one-step, 3 different pads, 1 compound. Beautiful, beautiful. These days I use Griot's Garage, and they've got wonderful components and great
You've been
products.
using that product for a while now.
I have, and it has never let me down, ever.
Nice.
But they're water-based compounds. And
Griot's Garage, it's like Griot.
Yeah, Griot's.
Unusual spelling.
Yeah, it is. But, they're a great company. They're a family-owned company. Father and son started it.
Right.
All their chemists are American. All their stuff is formulated in America. It's all manufactured in America. So it's a great story. It's the American dream, and and their stuff is really good. So I recommend it to anybody.
Cool. Now the dude come back and said, yes, he's doing it outside.
So there you go. So what happens when you do it outside is the sun superheats the surface, right? So if you can get access to a point and shoot thermometer, that's going to be your friend. So you can shoot that hood out in the sun, even in mid-morning. And I do this when I do my live training classes. It's 75 degrees in the training center. I go outside, there's maybe a rental car or a car outside the shop, and it's 9 a.m., and I shoot the hood of the car, and it's 125 degrees.
Jeez,
it's
really?
because of the UV energy from the sun superheats that top surface. And that's what you're fighting. 100% that's what you're fighting. Get a pop-up tent. If you don't have a garage space, get a pop-up tent. Get in the shade. Get in the shade. You're going to have a very different experience.
Huh. There you go. The master. Cool. Well, hopefully that'll help.
Yeah, man. I hope it does help.
Yeah. Now someone back up here said, what about using where's it gone? Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah. It was about HVLP and turpentine. Where did it go? Thoughts on using a turbine, sorry. Bad eyes. Turbine HVLP system as a DIY painting option.
We was just talking about that.
Yeah, I actually have a turbine system. It's one of the Eastwood ones. And the thing with the older style turbine systems is that basically it's an electric jet engine, and it superheats the air coming out of your spray gun.
Oh, really?
So you get typically the reputation with the turbine systems is you get a whole bunch of orange peel, really rough texture, is because it's drying the solvent out of the paint before it hits the surface.
Right.
So
what's the upside of this?
You don't have an air compressor. It's
No.
a self-contained turbine.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're really cool if you don't have an air system.
Right.
But you have to outsmart the air. You have to use, if it's 80 degrees when you're painting and you're using a turbine system, reach for the tallest chemistry that you can. Reach for 100-degree chemistry. Your reducers, your catalysts, whatever it is, you have to compensate for that hot air coming out of the end of it. That
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So
they'll even run off a car battery.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. So, but just go a couple of steps up in the temperature of your.
I recommend that anyways. I recommend staying 10 degrees above surface temperature anyways. But with the turbine systems, yes, absolutely, 10 to 20. Yeah, you've got to really think past the temperature that you're spraying at.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Not that I even knew what one of those was, but there you go.
Well, they're cool. I mean, they cost, they're $800-900 for the unit.
Wow.
But you don't need an air hose. You don't need filtration. You don't need a dryer. You don't need a compressor. And all of that stuff, it adds up.
Right.
My 3-stage desking system hanging off of my spray booth is $1,000. So, I mean, it's relative.
Driveway of Misfits. Any thoughts on painting soft vinyl parts like armrests? Have some that have discolored with age.
Yes, you can do it. Use
you were just talking about that.
SEM products. Do not skip the step of an adhesion promoter. Always super clean it. If you use SEM products, they've got a really good system. Follow their system. But the purpose of an adhesion promoter is to soften the plastic and open it up, open the pores of it up so that when you put the paint on and it closes back up, it bonds and bites.
Right.
When people don't do that step, it ends up flaking off.
Yeah.
Period. You have to obey that rule. You have to, but when you do that, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, Sim makes that whole kit
They do.
from start to finish, and it works very good.
I did a color change on the Jaguar. I did a LS powered lump to Jaguar, right? You know what that means.
Yeah.
But did a color change on the interior. It was a weird, horrible blue color, and we did it all black. Followed the Sim instructions verbatim, and you couldn't peel it off with your fingernail. And so there's very good systems out there for that. I did the Miata door panels too. So once
it's interesting. The adhesion promoter I thought was more to do with the flexibility of the finished product, that it would, because the vinyl you're covering flexes, obviously, it's stretchy.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is my mistake. I'm not saying this is what it was. That was, and maybe it's your guys' interpretation too, but I thought that adhesion promoter was to allow it to stay sticking when it bent, when it moved. But more, it's just for allowing the paint to stick at all.
Adhesion when it moves. So I work with
but even if it's not moving, stuff doesn't want to stick to it.
Right.
Okay.
There's a company called Polyvance. They're out of Rainsville, Alabama. I think it's Rainsville. Anyway, but they've invented their own plastic repair systems, and they've got their own primers, their own adhesion promoters. They make their own plastic welding rods in-house. Great company. And
what was the name of that company again?
How did I brain fart? No, Polyvance. Yes. And I've gone through their training. I'm certified to be a plastic repair technician. I needed that for my collision repair courses, my professional trade school courses. So I went immersed and went down there, studied, got my plaque on the wall. And so, I'm a geek for this stuff anyway. So I really immersed myself into why and how of plastic. And the adhesion promoter has to be there to set up the substrate. Even with the plastics that you can sand and paint properly, you always should have an adhesion promoter on.
Right.
Yeah.
Good information. Kathleen Mitchell, Griots is the best. There you go. We got a fan.
That's something me and you was talking about a while back on the adhesion promoters, was door jams.
Yeah.
And you said don't work on door jams on paint.
It doesn't work on paint or metal. I mean,
and people use it for that all the time.
Oh, really?
I've heard of guys putting adhesion promoter on chrome bumpers because they were told that it would make the paint stick better.
Someone, and I scrolled up a bit now, but someone asked about painting chrome bumpers.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. So, but now you can get it powder coated. Yeah. I've had good luck with that. Just had some done.
Do you have the chrome removed first or powder coat straight over the
but the powder coat company sandblasted them.
Oh, okay.
And I was going to say that's the only way I've ever had paint stick to chrome is to have it media blasted and then come back with epoxy and then coatings on top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Johnny Bravo, how did you guys end up in Tennessee? TC sounds like he's from there.
Yes.
Born and raised.
Born and raised.
Kevin's from Canada, yep. And Kiwi, I'm a long way from home, as you say.
We have the misfits, aren't we? Yeah. That's different there.
Yeah, it's well, how did you come to be down here?
I came down to the United States in 1984, pursuing my first dream, which was to be a rock star.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with a beautiful woman and I stayed. So she lived in Tennessee. And
does Judy know about her?
She does. And so
he's talking about Judy. I'm just
my wife is Judy.
Yeah. It's the funniest thing because I didn't know he had that life as a rock star singer. And
I didn't know for quite a long time.
Yeah, and we're sitting in Vegas at a ballroom with like 500 people in there, and he just gets up from the table and walks up there on stage and starts singing. I didn't know he sang. Yeah. And then he came back down and sit down and got his beer and sit down. And I said, man, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
No, I knew some of the guys in the band. I didn't just run up on stage. Okay, so all right,
so, you won't believe this picture he's about to show you. Like,
so this is one of the last touring groups I was with. I'm the guy in the middle. This group was called Sin City. We were out of Los Angeles, and there was more square feet of hair in that band than we should have been allowed to have. But yeah, so melodic 80s hard rock and all that kind of stuff. But my path, I traveled extensively all over Canada, trying to find the brass ring, end up with an opportunity to come down to Orlando. because we had a management company and then ties to CBS Records, which doesn't exist anymore. And we slugged it out in the club circuit in Florida, and then went to LA, and then moved back to Florida, and just I traveled all over the country. I got to starve in Miami. I got to starve in Jacksonville. I got to starve in Tallahassee. I got to starve in Chicago. I got to starve in Los Angeles, and I got to starve in Orlando. And let me see, I got to starve in Toronto and London, Ontario. And I got to starve in British Columbia and Alberta. So that was the music industry for me. I learned how to eat ramen noodles.
Yeah, didn't y'all have like one big car y'all rode in and kept the hairspray up front so it didn't freeze?
Keep the hairspray up front so it didn't freeze.
Guilty.
Seriously?
Guilty
Oh my
of charge.
gosh.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Some of his
Yeah.
stories are so funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so that brought me to Tennessee. And then, you know, I grew up around cars too. And that was the thing that always kept me, when the band would break up, I go to work in a shop.
Right.
So I didn't know it at the time.
And you were collision shop kind of working, weren't you?
Yeah, just body shops. But I was getting cross trained for my career now. So I was in Los Angeles, starving again. So I got a job sweeping the floor and blocking primer in a body shop called Alejandra Porsche, and exclusive German and British automobiles, and master craftsman in this place. And I learned more from holding Maestro's torch. He was an unbelievable metal man. And he would quench metal, and he would hand me his torch, and I would just hold his torch and hand it to him. When he would get it to where you do a skim coat of primer on a door it was just amazing watching this guy. And I learned more holding his torch than I've ever learned about metal. So I got to work in a terrible shop in Miami. It was like a Mako style thing. And I learned what not to do there. And that's as important as learning what to do. Yeah. So when it came time for me to not try and be a rock star anymore, because I'd blown out my voice and I was a singer, and I had to do something. I grew up around cars. My dad was a paint and body guy. And, you know, when I wanted a car, we didn't have any money when we were kids. I had to build one. So that was what I knew how to do. So, you know, I just focused on that. And I was, you know, with Judy and married at the time. And it was like, okay, what are we doing now? Let's get a JOB. Let's contribute to the house. Let's take this seriously, because that other thing, it's done. It's over. So, yeah.
Huh.
And I haven't looked back.
No, you have not. No. No, TB, you in front of a microphone has been your kind of will for a long time.
I guess. Now, what's that about?
A camera or something.
What's that about? Is like
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, he's not the prettiest guy you've ever seen, but you know, he seems to come across well on camera.
My forehead is turning to a 5 head. You know, so I mean, whatever. I don't know. I'm so old. I started out painting lacquer. Chris, I did too. So that's one of the other things.
Me as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I when we were transitioning from lacquer to acrylic enamels, and then to acrylic urethanes, and then to 2-stage paints, and I was coming up in collision shops when all of those changes happened. So it gave me a really good background on how that stuff works.
So when you were in Miami, how hard was it to do body work in that heat?
Oh yeah, terrible. Yeah.
I mean, did they have air conditioning in the shops? I mean, how did you control like
in the morning
filler work mixing?
Yeah, painters paint in the morning, polish in the afternoon. Yeah, you can't outsmart the sun. Well, you just have to know when it's not there anymore.
But like mixing fillers and all that, it seemed like it'd be hard before you could get to that.
Yeah, I don't know. You know,
it's got to be brutal down there.
Yeah, for sure. Been wondering why I haven't been seeing any Mako ads for a while. Oh, somebody's on a side conversation. Kevin is the American dream. You know what? Hair metal and muscle cars. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Hair metal and muscle cars. Okay. Oh man. Kevin had the Riz back in the day. That's funny. That's funny. No, but it's, you know, it honestly, the music industry beat my ego out of me. So when I started doing television, I wasn't full of myself, getting famous, whatever that even means. It was like, okay, you know, I've seen people become rock stars that were friends, and I saw that curve, and I saw how it changed people. And then all of a sudden, also with the music industry, it just crushes you. When you're not successful, it's brutal, man.
Right.
Because it's a very, very hard industry to get into. And there's so much competition. There's so many people that are better than you. And, you know, I remember somebody telling me, you know, you better work hard, because right next to you is somebody that's younger, better looking, a better musician, and has a better attitude than you. So you better kick in. You better do something. You better do something different and better than anybody, So, I mean, and that's really the truth.
Cutthroat, isn't it?
It's cutthroat, and then I failed horribly at it because, when you're a singer that can't sing, I couldn't even order through a drive-through without my voice breaking like I was going through puberty. And I didn't have insurance. I couldn't see the doctors I needed to see.
Right.
And I eventually, got back to where, I didn't embarrass myself speaking again, and singing is hit or miss.
Damaged your voice.
Yep.
Wow.
And then the whole support mechanism of the voice. So, whatever. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
There you go.
I sing in the shower.
Right. What do we got here? Blaze Urati, you painted Bronco with lacquer. I have that project on DVD. You painted a Bronco with lacquer?
Oh, yeah. That
go.
was, what did we call that? We called that Das Bronco. And we did it with Duplicolor. The Duplicolor paint shop system when that first came out.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we did the Dazzle graphics. So that was really fun because we wanted to do, our job on the Power Block was to satisfy contracts.
Right.
And in the middle of that, us as technicians got to pass on stuff that we knew and tell stories and show it was how-to TV, right? So it was a beautiful thing. So we get to play with all these things and these parts and all that kind of stuff. And here comes Duplicolor. And I'm a professional painter, and they want me to do a overall paint job with this system.
Right.
That, like I said, there's no such thing as bad paint. There's only misunderstood paint. Well, I didn't understand this paint. So that's all I'm going to say about it. But we had to do full paint jobs with this stuff. And I had to figure out a way to do it. So one of the things was Das Bronco. We did a Dazzle camouflage paint job, historical spin on World War I naval camouflage, which was, they didn't have radar. So
Right.
you had to use horizon line of sight. So you distracted the vision because you could pick out a silhouette if you're looking over the horizon. If a ship comes on the horizon, you can pick out the silhouette of a ship by the hull, by the shape of it.
Right.
Well, if the camouflage distracts that, it really actually worked. And then along comes radar, and it doesn't matter anymore. So camouflage changed. But that was the significance of that paint job. And it was big fun. So we did, and it was lacquer. Yeah. And we did a satin clear, which is forgiving. And it was an off-road vehicle. We bashed it into trees. So, it wasn't a show car paint job, but it was a fun paint job.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Chris Kevin, bourbon time. Yes, it is indeed. When's it not bourbon time? Maybe 8 a.m., but that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alan Schildroth says voice coach. I had a voice coach everywhere I stayed longer than a month. I had a voice coach in Toronto, a really good one. May he rest in peace, Ron Feldman in Orlando, Florida. He was actually Janie Lane from Warrant's voice coach also. A bunch of different famous people. But Ron was amazing. And I studied hard. I worked hard at being a good singer and with proper technique and proper vocalization, warm-ups, warm-downs, all that type of stuff. And Ron helped me get my voice back after I blew it out, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
The dude saying you should start a band with Derek. He's good on the guitar.
I've heard that. Hey. We've talked about that. And that show, Daryl Hall from Hall & Oates?
Yeah.
Live from Daryl's house? We wanted to do a spin on that called Live from Derek's House, but he's never home for long enough, right? So we wanted to get a band. A good friend of ours, Terry Wilson, he's up in New Jersey. He's unbelievable guy, and he's a keyboard player and a drummer. So we want to get this industry band together and do something like that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, get Ron.
Yeah, Ron Ryan from Memphis. Yep, ace guitar player. Yep. Who else? Kiwi is the Bobby Dazzler. It's Bobby Dazzler.
No, you don't want to hear me sing, brother. I can trust you that. I might be good at a couple of different little things, but not singing. No.
Have you ever accidentally tiger striped a paint job over metal flake? Oh yeah. Yeah, it's easy to do that.
Yeah, it's hard not to do that.
It's hard not to do that. It's very hard to control metallic paint jobs.
Yeah.
It is. And it's a blend of technique, proper chemistry, and proper surface prep. And the right environment to spray in. Too much wind in your booth and it dries it too much on the top.
And there's several ways to not get striping. Like you showed me that wet on wet drop coat that is unbelievable to do. I mean, the final shot looks like you're spraying undercoat or something.
Yeah.
And the way the molecules go together and then it flows out and it makes a perfect pattern.
Yeah. By the way, on the failed live stream, we introduced each other. TC Panic has Bay One Customs YouTube channel. We're talking about the way we use YouTube, but if you get a chance, go to his YouTube channel. It's fascinating because it's customer outreach, and he goes down to what he's doing on the vehicles that he's working on for his customers. And it's really interesting because he's talking to you like you're right there in the room with him. And it's really cool, man, to see what you're doing and how you're doing it, because you do a great job of explaining it. And TC did this car. I'll let you talk, but it's a body swap. It's awesome. It's an amazing car. So it's a 69 Charger, right?
Yep, 69 Charger.
Over top of a 2016 Hellcat chassis. And it's seamless. It's the best body swap that I've ever seen done. And it's all on his channel. You can see how he did it. He suspended the Charger body over top of the Hellcat chassis. And it's just amazing.
Yeah. You can see it from start to finish. For me, I work by myself, so it's hard for me to do it all. So I struggle on doing the video stuff and all that. So it got to where I just had to do it just for the customer. And but like with Supercharger, if we have an issue with something, you can go back and look at episode whatever 25 and see what's under the headliner or whatever it is. I did a Woody for Bruce High in California, in Escondido, California. And we documented all that on YouTube. And that's been real handy because when it left me and went there, I can't service it or maintenance it or anything. And Bruce was having a little issue with the dome lights. And I just told him to go watch whatever episode, and it shows where the relay was, and it makes it where he can work on it. But another thing about doing these body swaps too is it makes it where the customer can get this car repaired themselves anywhere. They go to a dealer and get it scanned or fixed. They can go to any parts house and get the parts. Because all these years, I've built a lot of cars. I've been doing this for 30 plus years. And when I would hand a customer a car, it's basically a bunch of aftermarket parts. It's a Wildwood brake system, a Monster transmission, a Blueprint engine, painless wiring, and you're trying to warranty all that stuff. Well, doing it this way, I can hand him a brand new car. Supercharger, the one he's talking about, it's got 26,000 miles on it. You know, his wife drives the car.
Wow.
So, and like the Woody that I sent to California, we put it on the Ford Explorer at the time, and it works fine. Runs good.
Yeah. So he says it simply like, we just put on a Ford Explorer, but he did things like this. The 49 Woody dash looks original, but there's a washer, a low fluid washer sign that comes up, and you did it with fiber optics from the original dash cluster, because in those Fords Pats will shut the car down if you unplug all of that stuff. So TC mounted all that stuff underneath the dash in a discrete location, used fiber optics to light up the dash with the modern signals that the engine needs, the communication, the driver communication. So when he says, I put the 49 Woody on an Explorer, it's not just that.
There's a little more to it.
It's a little more to it. And with this Hellcat, when you open the door, the cat shines down on the asphalt when you open the door, and it's a 69 Charger. And the best thing you said is that this Hellcat has no idea that it looks like a 69 Charger.
Right.
So,
and that's how you have to think about it the whole way, because every piece of the Hellcat has to be there. Like in the Hellcat itself, I have taillights from the Hellcat inside the Charger running. The computer has to know those taillights are there.
It's load sensitive
and piggyback off of it. And there's lots of items in there like that to make that happen. But in result, he's got a remote start and every feature that was in it.
Yeah, I remember hearing a story about Gas Monkey Garage doing one of these Hellcat body swaps, and they couldn't get it to run, and it was because the tail lights weren't plugged in.
Yeah.
They hadn't quite got to that point yet, but they were trying to start it. Obviously, the TV show that they're trying to make, and they want to hear some noise.
Yeah, but if anybody's thinking about doing that, they have to think of that in advance. You have to use every component.
But that blew my mind that the tail lights had to be
all the body
connected and
modules,
running.
all the computers talk to each other
for the engine to run.
Yeah, I've even got door window motors inside the doors running. There's a Hall effect switch in there. The computer has to know that motor's spinning, and then I piggyback off it to run the Charger window motors.
Really?
Yeah.
So you've got two window motors in each door.
In each door. Yeah.
The one's just doing nothing. The one's just
one's just spinning.
One just thinks it's putting the window
and then to stop that Hall effect switch, I had to put a breaker in there to stop it. because that motor don't know to stop. So that's how. Yeah, so
Wow.
it has to sense the load. So if you stick your head out the window will stop.
You just
So-
way too clever.
Hell, it's just a student of the game. So all this comes at you. So when you're and you don't find this out till you're 2,000-3,000 hours into a job. So you have to really be open-minded. And that's what we was talking about earlier. What makes it so nerve-wracking building one of these cars? You don't know for sure it's all going to work
Right.
until you're 3,000 or 4,000 hours in.
Yeah.
And you got to have it all. It gets a little
And
nerve-wracking.
at that point, the customer's expecting a result.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Not only a result, a
speaking
car
of-
that him and his wife get in and drive to the store or do whatever and get serviced.
Because it's a lot of money, and last thing you would want as a customer is the wife going, I'm not driving that car. I don't like it.
Yeah.
That's
But
not
she loves
going to
that
fly.
She does. And the good thing about the Hellcat, it has 2 key fobs, so you can run 500 horsepower or 700. Because when it's in the 700, it is extremely loose, in the back. And then we put the blower through the hood, so that's all you hear is blower. It's like Mad Max when you drive it. You don't even hear the exhaust. And I was out in it once, and I was doing about 60, a little over 60, and got into it where you could hear the blower, and it blew the back tires at 60.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's
Those are big sticky tires too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here's a great quote. You can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning. So true. But the problem is when I do that about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm going to bed for the night. So
yeah, and we gotta get up tomorrow and
yeah.
go at it.
Here's a question for me. In what situations can lacquer be painted over acrylic enamel? 66 T-Bird has a pretty strong original paint. Could a mist coat lacquer over it? Yeah, you want to do what the paint is asking for, and misting paint doesn't serve anything. The answer to your question is you can spray any coating over top of a fully cured coating underneath. So if you're, and obviously it's a 60s T-Bird, so it's fully cured. So you can spray lacquer over top of that. And if by lacquer, I'm cluing in that some guys in the UK talk about lacquer as clear coat. It's an interchangeable term.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a nickname for clear, but they mean 2K urethane clear, but they call it lacquer. So if you're talking about lacquer,
before.
so you can paint, if you're talking about, in Thunderbird 68, are you from UK? Let us know. But anyway, my 68 bird, okay, pretty strong original paint.
Wouldn't you just put epoxy over it?
I think he's trying to make it shiny again.
Oh, he's just trying to put a clear over it.
If you're trying to make it shiny again, if it's a solid color, you can get by with like maybe a gold scuffing pad, which doesn't leave much of a scratch, but you have to have that mechanical adhesion. There's 2 types of adhesion. Chemical, which is chemicals going together. Think about 2 pieces of masking tape and you put the sticky side to the sticky side. That's chemical adhesion.
Right.
Mechanical adhesion is sanding scratches that increase the surface area, and so you get this. That's mechanical adhesion. You have one or the other or nothing. So you have to figure out a way to get mechanical adhesion on that cured surface. Now, do you damage the surface when you put your clear over top of it? You see the sanding scratches? That's a risk, right?
Right.
So there's, it's risky. I'm just going to say that. But if you can use like the gold scuffing pads, I think are 800 or 1,000 grit. And if you can knock enough of a tooth into that, you might get the clear to stick. Good luck.
Tech bits and pieces, mate. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Have a bottle of bourbon on Tech bits and pieces. Yeah, send us $100 Aussie dollars, mate. That's awesome. Thank you so much,
dude. That's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, it's don't knock it. Yeah, cheers. Here's to you, bud. The boys are back in town. We've caused some trouble over the years, but hey, it's another story. So yeah, cool. Thanks for that, man. Now, I saw a question. Where did I see the question?
Need some channel links.
Yes. So, all right. I can try. Yeah, that's a bit hard to try and reach over there and do the typing and keep everyone in shot. Yeah, we do.
You could put them in the description later, right? When this goes.
Yep, I can do that. I will get the channel links out to you, but TC here is Bay One Customs or at Bay One Customs.
Yeah.
And
it's Bayone spelled out.
Yeah.
Bay1 Customs.
Yeah, not Bay, the numeral one, but BA1.
On YouTube.
See if I can creep in here. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm trying to type this in down here. So
He's making me very uncomfortable.
yeah.
And like I said, my
lying.
YouTube
He's lying.
is
He
crude.
likes it when I snuggle up to him.
So if you're looking for mine, that's what it looks like. But it's Paintucation by Kevin Tates. Chris is going to put it in the link.
At Bay1 Customs, that's right, isn't it? Yep.
Well, you don't even put the at.
Oh, you don't?
It's
Just Bay1 Customs?
Just Bay1 Customs
Okay.
on YouTube.
And Mr. Tate says, what?
Paintucation by...
Paintucation.
Yeah, or just, yeah, Paintucation by Kevin Tates.
You guys need to be reading the questions while I'm looking at the key.
All right. So so Tavo is doing a roof swap. Hey Tavo, how's the roof swap coming on? That's an aggressive thing. What's up, Kiwi? Grant Studley says, says, what's up?
Paintucation by Kevin Tits.
Oh, I meant lacquer as in Duplicolor base coat. I'm from Canada. I gotcha. Misting it on won't do you any good, pal. Sorry, it won't. Are you trying to make it shinier? Yeah, it's and Duplicolor is a good product, but there's no strength in it. It's an uncatalyzed product, and there's nothing wrong with that. Lacquer was not catalyzed, but it lasted for years because they had a very sophisticated resin base in it. But the Duplicolor stuff it's made to be affordable, so it's a very difficult it's a difficult product to get a good long life out of. That's the way I'll say that. So I kind of think you're barking up the wrong tree with that. I would try and reach for something with a hardener in it. And when you do that, I just want to say it out loud. You have to follow the safety rules with that. Wear a good mask, wear some eye protection too, because it's dangerous stuff. But it makes it stronger. You get the product becomes something different. It becomes a membrane over top of what you're doing. And the Duplicolor stuff just sort of sits on top of there. And it just gets weak over time, with the sun and the UV that's gonna hit it. It's just not. It's not a very strong product.
And you talking about the safety equipment. Something you taught me is wear gloves. I didn't wear gloves forever, and I didn't realize it soaked into your hands.
Yep, it does. And you wax grease and oil coming off your hands. We sweat. We've got all this stuff coming out of our skin, and we're depositing that on the paint job.
Right.
The biggest reason for PPE is to keep us healthy while we're using this stuff. The next biggest reason is to protect our work from us. Yeah.
The dude, he's one of my moderators. And
cool.
He's just put you guys links up here, like an actual proper link that will take you direct there instead of having to retype it. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much. That's great.
That's cool. Who else have we got here? Grant Studley. Hey man, welcome along. What's up, Kiwi? With these two, that's what's up.
So good evening, Kevin. After wiping a car down after car wash, okay, there are still water droplet beads left over. How do you get rid of water stains that seem etched into the paint? Okay, so part of water droplets that etch, sometimes when you have super hard water and the water droplet actually evaporates, it super deposits the minerals that are in that water onto the edge of where that droplet was. So it's this highly concentrated, whether it's minerals in the water, leads or soaps or whatever it is in the water, it's crusty and it's super concentrated around the perimeter of where that water drop was. That's what makes it hard to remove. So to remove it, I'm going to say use a mild rubbing compound and a good microfiber towel. That should have enough abrasiveness in the polish to lift that stuff off, to push it off of the paint without scratching the paint.
Right.
Hope that helps. Link to Kevin's channel. What do y'all think of surface conditioner tools? Don Bellet. Okay, so Don, what are you talking about? What kind of tools are you talking about? Can you type in a description of something you're talking about? Surface conditioner. Are you talking about the rotary tools that lift paint off? Eastwood has one. So give me a little more information on that one.
What else have we got going? Phil Buckley. I remember our mechanic using Duplicolor. He was asking Mum for old stockings to strain the paint.
That's not a bad idea, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, at least he's trying
Probably
to
back in the day before you got given, a couple of hundred paint strainers for free
Uh-huh.
when you bought paint.
Yep.
Um, I can remember my old man doing that, using mum's old pantyhose and stuff to strain paint.
Yeah.
They strained moonshine.
Oh, really?
Run, yeah, through the sock.
Clean ones, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I remember Dad putting the gallon of paint on a hot plate before putting it in the paint gun to spray it.
Oh, really?
It lays down super slick, and it changes the viscosity. It thins it out. It doesn't thin it out, but it makes it more prone to self-level. And it's kind of sketchy, like really kind of dangerous, because there's VOC coming off the paint and you're heating it up.
Yeah.
But
was it like a gas burner or an electric hot
just
plate?
a little electric hot plate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
At least it wasn't gas or the naked flame.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's interesting. Like years back, I kind of had a little bit of a phase of building some model cars.
Mm-hmm.
The guy was, and I tried it, but he said preheat your aerosol cans, your little model paint cans.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
Like you get them nice and hot, and it comes out with a bit more power, and it just flows out way better.
Yeah, it excites the molecules that are trapped in there.
Right.
So I did this video when I first
So
started.
would that work on our we were talking about rattle canning brackets earlier. Would that work on a like your regulation rattle can that we use on full size cars?
Yeah.
I do it.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So I put them under my heat lamp, especially this time of year.
Right.
Like whatever I'm painting, I'll put the parts under there, and then I put the cans, and they spray good.
Yep, it makes a difference. I did a video that I
usually turn them upside down, put the cap down.
Oh, okay.
When I do it.
But I use
the solids come down.
Yeah, and just keep that plastic from up there. But I don't let it get real hot, but I just let it warm up with the parts, and it sprays real good.
I was gonna say I did a video. I painted a Harley tank with a Rust-Oleum can, and the can with the different tips on it on the cap. You could rotate and get a wider, different pattern. And my goal of it was to try and get a professional looking paint job with a rattle can. And it was just a fun video to make. And we did that. And it's been, for some reason, it's been a super popular video on my channel. But the feedback that I've got from people that really, really do nice work with rattle cans or the turbo cans and all that type of stuff, it's been amazing. The different tricks and techniques of people that do that. Right. And they just get the absolute most out of these rattle cans, and it's pretty techy. It's pretty sciencey, like heating up the paint cans, or there's paint can shakers that hook to a reciprocating saw, like a Sawzall, that strap in. Yeah, it's really cool.
You've got one of those, don't you?
I've got one, and
I saw your New Year's salute.
I got to think of his channel name, but his name is Adrian, but he's I'm Adrian. I'm so sorry if you're watching this. I can't remember the name of your YouTube channel. I fell and hit my head. I blame that. But anyway.
Okay, what have we got? Bish, I'm a younger guy, never done any body work whatsoever. What kind of project would be a good place to start? Ooh.
Start with something small.
Yeah.
Start with something small. A motorcycle, motorcycle tank, or just go to a scrapyard, go to a pull apart. Get a hood off of a car and just mess around with it. Do something that is not going to cost you heartache or a lot of money or a lot of time, and get a feel for what you're doing. Whether it's wiping filler, putting primer on, blocking paint, sanding, prepping, spraying paint, do it to where it doesn't hurt you to practice, because we have to practice. You have to put the time in. You have to develop the muscle memory, especially when it comes to spraying paint.
Right.
It's like one of my favorite sayings is, when you're hammering a nail into wood, you're not watching the hammer. You're watching the nail to see how far into the wood it goes. Right. So what is this doing? You have to have muscle memory to control that hammer and each blow that it hits the top of the nail. It's exactly the same with spray guns. You have to know exactly where you're at without looking at where you're at, because you're looking at the surface. The surface tells you how much paint to use. It tells you how close to be. It tells you to how fast and slow you need to go. You can't be looking at your hand, and it just takes a while.
Yeah, your gun kind of almost needs to be on automatic pilot.
Exactly. So you got to develop. Malcolm Gladwell says we need 10,000 hours to become expert and proficient in any given discipline. So you got to have 10,000 hours in.
10,000 hours.
And you can start by buying one of your DVDs.
You can start by going to pageeducation.com. No, for real. I've got some really good training products out there. And
he really does.
And some great tricks, like the paintbrush trick.
Yeah.
On the end of the brush. Or you've got a tool for that.
I've got a tool. I call it the Spray Coach. It's a $25 tool. It's got an instruction book. It's got a CD with instructions and a video, and it's a clip-on device. It's training wheels for a spray gun. You can learn perfect spray technique without ever spraying a drop of paint. And so it's a neat little system. So we've got all kinds of affordable stuff. I've got longer form courses, more professional courses, but I've got a video on how to put a cab corner in. It's a $4.99 video.
Right.
It's a streaming video. And so when I say Paint Education Training, I'm not trying to suck money out of a bunch of people. We put a lot of time and resource and decades of my life into creating these training videos, and they're really good videos. They're good instructionals. So, to try and pay for the production time, we charge for them, right? So anyway, they're out there. So if I can help you in any way, email me, info@painteducation.com. Let me know what you need. I can try and direct you to resources, or, and I do tech support for people, and I don't charge for that. But so if you're serious about learning, let me help you. Let me set you up to the appropriate training products, and some of them might be free. On my YouTube channel, I've got free tech tips, free painting tips, how to set up your spray gun. I just did an episode on my channel 2 weekends ago, and it's how to set up a spray gun, how to use the controls to get the best result out of the gun, and it's easier than you think.
Yeah, and setting up the spray gun is one of the most important things there is that I've noticed. Because if you take the time to get it set up just right, it comes out there like laying vinyl, and it's well worth.
And it's knowing what is just right, because you don't just like twiddle with the knobs and go, oh, that's just right.
No, yeah,
you have to know what just right looks like.
Yeah, and that's where he comes in.
That's where he comes in.
Yeah, because he's shown me so much stuff, but
I don't want to sound like an advertorial, for Paint Education, but one thing I would say about you, Kevin, and I first discovered you kind of thing on watching RTM,
Trucks,
Power Block on Trucks TV, and I've just bought a truck, but I'm not typically a truck guy, right? I'm Mustangs and Camaros and stuff like that. But Kevin's show on trucks, I would always watch that because he has a way of teaching. You have a way of teaching, and I don't think it's something you even consciously do. It's just the way you explain things.
Yeah.
And some people are very good at explaining things in a way that you can understand them, that it makes sense.
Yeah.
And like I find that if I'm trying to figure something out and I need to go to YouTube and find a video, I'll scroll through half a dozen, 8, 10 videos, and you'll stumble on this one guy who's like, okay, I get what he's saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one guy's saying do it this way, and the other guy's doing it that way. And it's slightly different, but that other way makes sense. When Kevin on his videos and CDs, it makes sense, and that's what being a good teacher is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm saying this for your guys' benefit, not for Kevin. He's drinking my bourbon. He's getting enough. So no, it's for you guys, because like if you pay the money for the CDs and stuff, you'll get bang for your buck. You really will.
Yeah.
He can teach. I can do. I'm not so good at teaching.
Yeah.
And because it's a different skill. It's a different skill.
Speaking of, Brad Hudson wants to know, Kevin, I'm interested in your how-to spray training. Any chance you can ship to? I can't. There's a heart in the way there, Chris. Can I move that?
Oh, I don't. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Ship out to BC. Out of BC, I can ship to BC. I can ship anywhere in the world. If you're after streaming, you just get one of the online courses, and they're yours for life once you have your own login and stuff like that, and it's yours for as long as you ever want it. There's no shipping involved. You don't have to wait for anything. I'm happy to send you a DVD. But the online course, the reason we went streaming is because you can't even buy a DVD player anymore. So I'd love to help you any way you want. Just let me know.
People, what was it? Tech Bits, more booze equals more info revealed. There you go.
What's
that? Away trade secret. Yeah, tick
More-
bits and pieces. More booze equals more info reveal. There you go. Chris Cadman.
let me tell you. I'll tell you how to paint that car. I'll do it.
Oh dear. Chris Cadman, bourbon time. Yep, bourbon time, definitely. Thunderbird, have any of you gentlemen used Car Rep 2K epoxy cans?
I have used a lot
I
of
have
the 2K cans. There's a company called Spray Max that has them. I think Sam now has them. Eastwood has their own line of 2K rattle cans. They're great. They're really, really great. It's a professional product in a rattle can. Yeah. Any thoughts on engine block prep? What do you think about painting inside the block? What do you think? You guys are mechanics. What do you think?
Well, they make a product for that.
Lip top, right?
Yep. Yeah, and that'd be the only thing I would say.
Yeah.
And I would only do it after it'd been in the machine shop and fresh clean, just
It's
to make
got to be
sure.
so clean. I mean, the engine spends its entire life soaking in oil.
Yeah, and it's porous
Yeah,
because
and
it's
it's
cast.
porous.
Yeah.
So
And people do it, but I've always been a little scared of that. But I know on the outside, if you put epoxy primer on them, that paint lasts quite a while on the outside.
Yeah.
But-
Most automotive paint will withstand 250 degrees. People don't know that. That's pretty dang hot. So
Yeah.
around your exhaust manifold, your exhaust ports, your outlets, it's going to burn off. So
Right.
what's that, 600-700 degrees, something like that?
Yeah.
And it heat soaks. It stays hot for a long time. But you can see the burn back, and it'll hold up. It'll hold up really well.
Going back to the painting inside the blocks, that's and some claim that that's a performance enhancer, in that it returns the oil back to the oil pan quicker because the oil slides over the shiny paint quicker than it does off the. And some people will even like deburr and polish up inside the block. And it's not that it doesn't work; it's nth degree stuff.
Right.
If you're trying to get every little bit of horsepower and the engine's under extreme high RPMs, high stress, the oil's getting up the top, it needs to get back down to the pan as quick as possible. We're not talking street engines. We're talking strictly race engines that, are going around a bank curve, pulling 9,000 RPM, and they're pumping literally gallons of oil a second into the top of the engine, and it's got to get back to the bottom. That is when that painting inside the block really does help. Street engines, no. There's a lot of stuff out there that is race engine only, and it kind of gets pulled back into the street engine arena. And people say this is what all the race guys do, and they're correct. That is what all the race guys do. But honestly, in my opinion, for a street engine, it's a waste of effort. You just don't need to
Point
do
of
it.
diminished returns.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to hurt it if you do, but you're going to, that's going to be, 5, 6, 10 hours that you like. You're not going to get back again.
Yeah, I've only seen that an issue one time when they put a high pressure oil pump in a Pontiac 400 engine in it.
Right.
And when he'd get on the interstate, it would blow the motor up. Did it twice. And there was no reason for a high pressure pump.
No.
So I yanked that pump out and put a high volume, and it never had a problem again.
No.
Never had a problem
You
again.
need about 10 PSI per 1,000 RPM.
But that first time it went down, they were trying to polish the return ports, and they were doing all this other stuff. And it was that high pressure pump in there. It was just pumping the pan dry on the interstate.
Right. Just too much.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, Chuck's here. Charles Zalton. Late, but I made it. Good to see you, man. Well, I can't really see you, but yeah. Glad you're here. Practice prep and panting. What? Oh, painting. Any household article with dollar store paints. Yeah, there you go. That's a good tip. Practice with cheap stuff. Like I said, make it not cost you money. When I do my in-person classes, we start with it's a $3 can of craft paint. It's water-based latex craft paint I get from Hobby Lobby, and we're on cardboard boxes. And what that teaches us is what the gun does, what droplets look like, distribution, overlaps, the basic mechanics of it. And it costs nothing. Cardboard box, I'm going to throw that away. And $3 worth of the craft paint, guess what? It thins down and makes about 2 quarts. So we get a day's worth of spraying with the full class out of $3 worth of craft paint. And you should see the light bulbs go off. It's amazing because people get to pull the trigger fearlessly. It's a safe failure. So I so encourage guys to do this at home. A refrigerator box, what an enormous tool to be able to show how to get consistent overlaps, how to get paint in zones, paint sections. So it doesn't have to be expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Tech bits and pieces. If any of you guys get to Oz, I will gladly shout a few drinks. There you go.
Awesome.
There you go.
Thank you.
We're invited.
All right. Yeah. There's a famous YouTuber that paints inside his engines with Rust-Oleum rusty metal primer. Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. Yeah, if you're going to spend some hours and well, I mean, like cylinder head porting is where your horsepower is, not in painted interiors of engines.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting the air in, yeah. But I mean, I don't advise doing that if you don't know how to port a cylinder head. Don't just dive in there and start
hogging it out.
Yeah, no, don't do that. That's not what I'm saying. But
the bravest I've ever gotten on cylinder heads is gasket matching, and that's I don't even know if that does any good.
Yeah, it does. But it's a black. I don't know how to do it. A good friend of mine back in New Zealand, Tony Marsh, he's an absolute guru on cylinder heads, and he's got his engines hold a lot of records, like international records. And
don't you need like a flow machine to know for sure?
Oh yeah, but I remember talking to him years back, and he was doing a lot of Formula Ford engines, which is a little 1.6 cross-flow escort engines, if you're familiar with those. But it's just a little, not even overhead cam, but they put them in a open wheel type, like a little baby IndyCar type chassis, and he was porting cylinder heads for those, and they were doing extremely well. They were the quickest engines out there. And by his own admission, he'd lost his way on the porting and started going backwards. Like he was no longer producing the quickest cylinder heads, and he couldn't make them as good as the ones he'd done earlier. And it took him a while, but he figured it out. And what he told me was that what he'd started doing is taking 20 thousandths of an inch out of the wrong part of the port. 20 thousandths of an inch.
Wow.
Now 60 thousandths of an inch is about a 16th of an inch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a third of a 16th of an, whatever that is.
Yeah. Not much.
Not much.
Yeah.
And it made the difference between him being the second or third on the heat, making these cylinder heads, to being first. 20. So yeah, don't just dig in and go, around your port and go, this is going to go awesome. But you can actually make them go slower.
Interesting.
But anyway,
Brad Hudson says Smokey Unick used to paint the inside of the intake manifolds and then polish the paint. That's interesting.
Wow.
Smokey Unick did some crazy stuff, but crazy like a fox. He did some interesting stuff. He was brilliant, genius. But that's interesting. And that, to me, it probably would decrease tumble in the air, maybe.
Yeah, see, they used to do that in the old days. They would port and polish was the term that everyone used to use. And they would like mirror polish inside the ports, with finer and finer, carbide, kind of sandpapered flat discs and stuff like that. And then somewhere along the line, someone realized that actually you don't want it super smooth. You want it rough so that it makes the air tumble and it helps atomize the fuel better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you actually want a little bit of disturbance in the flow. It's about speed, airspeed through the port and airspeed around the corners. And they have terms like short turn and long turn, where on the inside of the turn going down to the valve is the short turn, and on the far side of the port it's a long turn. So the air has to run at different speeds. So it's how the short term turn relates to the long turn.
Yeah.
And it's like too much.
Need to know what you're doing on that.
Oh yeah.
But those racers, they have so many tricks,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And some of the stuff they do is winding up some of their competition.
Yeah.
We're doing this now. And then people go, people are always, these race engine builders are always worried that they're missing the boat, that someone's found something new that they don't know. So they drop, and Smokey Unick was one of them too. He would deliberately drop misinformation out there.
Yeah. To
make the other guys head off down the wrong rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're doing it just like Smokey does, but he's going faster. What? No, that's not what Smokey was doing at all. He just sold you a dummy and you followed it, Yeah, it's Smokey Yunick was. I mean, he's famous for a reason. And yeah, did he do that to the inside of intake manifolds? Maybe, I don't know. Smokey would be able to tell you. Would he tell you? I don't know.
But yeah, a friend of mine, he's doing tech up there at Highland Rim, Butch.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff they do, it's just amazing, you know.
Yeah.
Every trick in the book.
I remember Butch.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, he's up there doing that tech stuff.
That's why they don't make smooth golf balls.
Yes, good point. Very good point.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought the golf ball was textured to grab the face of the putt.
No, it's how it flies.
It makes it fly.
It's aerodynamic.
So does that help it turn?
I don't know anything about golf, but I do that little bit of information. I do know that texture on the surface affects how it flies through the air.
So if you hit it to where it's spinning, it'll help it curve.
I honestly that much I don't know, but I know that it's an aerodynamic aid, that textured surface. It's how it flies through the air. I don't know whether it's not. I don't think it's made to make it curve one way or the other because they really want it going straight. But yeah, it literally flies better.
Yeah, I don't know much about that.
They'll travel further with that texture.
I would like golf a lot better if I could just get it in the hole. You know, if I could figure that out.
Robin Williams did a little 5-minute stand-up routine on golfing, and it's the funniest thing you could ever watch. Like go home tonight. It'll be on YouTube for sure. But Robin Williams on golf, and it's the funniest thing you've ever seen. The way he's swearing and in a crazy Scottish accent, it's just hysterical. But it really captures that frustration of golf trying to get it in the hole.
Yeah,
because he's talking about what a ridiculous game it is, and he's saying that you'd think that you finally get it in the hole and you're done, and he's like, no, you've got to do it 18 frickin' times. It's so funny. But yeah, Robin Williams on golf. Have a look at it.
So Chris Cadman is a question for me. Have you ever tried to drown a bug that has landed in the hood mid-paint job? Oh, I've had that happen so many times. I've piled clear on top of them just to punish them before they die horribly. But this reminds me of a really interesting trick. I had a helper in one of the collision shops. It was an independent shop. And my helper was John Schrader. And he was full of really good country wisdom. And we're talking about bugs and flies in the paint booth. And he said, get some alcohol. I said, yeah, I'll have a beer. He said, no, get some alcohol in a spray bottle. And he went, lunch break, he got a little spritzer with isopropyl alcohol in it. And he showed me. And there was a fly. And I knew it was going to end up in the paint job. Right. And he followed this thing around and it would land somewhere. And he'd go, and the second time it landed, he went, the thing fell down onto the floor. And
but it was having a good time.
And I said, he looked at me and said, it gets him drunk and then you step on it. And it's the simplest thing. So just before the bug gets in your paint, get your spritzer with isopropyl alcohol, which is a good thing to have around the shop anyways, because it's a good cleaner and it's an anti-static for surfaces like fiberglass and plastic. But drown the bugs in alcohol before they get in your paint job.
I guess you can't be spraying bug spray around the place, can you?
Not really, no.
No, it wouldn't work well.
But I do that like the day before.
All right.
I put bug bombs off, not in my booth, but around my booth.
Right.
And, because I'm going to pre-clean the heck out of everything twice before it gets in the booth and then again in the booth before I spray anyways.
Right.
So, but yeah, so the bug bombs work, but yeah, it's a bad.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I have chased a fly around,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And you're on the game of cat and mouse.
Yeah. Golf ball texture, you can trap air in the pocket so the rest of the air is passing over less surface. Imagine running a block of cheese across the counter compared to a grater. Huh. Okay.
Yeah,
so that's saying fly, what you were saying, basically.
Yeah, less wind resistance with the bumpy finish. Go figure.
Yeah, I always heard it was because of the putting that English on it from the putter or whatever you call it. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It got a little traction on the face.
Right. I mean, honestly, what I've heard and what you've heard, and who's to say which is right or wrong? Really, like I'm not a golfer.
Yeah, I'm not a golfer.
But I have heard that numerous times that is it's all to do with aerodynamics. And then someone said, like it effectively reduces the surface tension because in the pocket the air is stationary and the air is just rubbing over air instead of over the surface of the ball. That makes sense in my brain, but I mean, I'm not sure what that means.
So Thunderbird 68 says, can you sand and buff out a bug though? No, because they get in the film. You got to get them out.
Unless they're in the clear and you can just polish them. And they're there forever. I've got some out there.
It'd be like Jurassic Park, and they're just sort of sitting there.
Fossilized.
Fossilized.
No, I've got some out there.
Get them out while the film is still wet. And if it leaves a divot, after your paint dries, even the next day, you've got a 24-hour window to fill in that divot with catalyzed clear coat. Fill it in, let it, because it'll cross-link. We'll have the chemical bond, right? And then you can sand it and level it flat. But get them out of there when it's wet.
Yeah, it becomes like a giant fisheye in a way, doesn't it? That little divot, and you can fill it up.
And I fixed fish eyes like that before with clear.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
just go ahead and drop a little clear in there and let it set a few days.
The main rule for repairing paint defects in fish eyes is that you can't ever do it with wet film. You have to have some form of a skinned over, out of dust, dry film in order to do any type of paint repair. So people freak out. We have fish eye. We have the air hose fell into the surface, whatever, something happened, a piece of lint in it. It's almost impossible to fix a surface defect with wet paint, and it's dangerous too. So let it skin over, let it dry, let it, with the exception of pulling a bug out. That has to be done when it's wet. But for fish eyes, divots, craters, we're working with fiberglass. The pinholes in the filler and the Bondo and all that kind of stuff. You see that manifest. It's super difficult to, especially fish eyes, to fix them with a wet film. You have to have that tension in order to build on top of and cover up that contamination with the fish eye in particular. So, yeah, it's
because a fish eye sometimes will just grow while it's wet. I mean,
it's like I've seen on several occasions people just trying to load more clear.
Oh, it just and that shoulder builds up,
and it just gets worse and worse.
It's like a kid trying to kick the covers off, and he just keeps kicking, and the covers pile up around it.
So what's down there? Just a contaminant that's there?
Yeah. It's literally, it's on a microscopic level. I have slides that I show, and it's a little piece of something, incompatible material, and it's pushing the crater out around it. You look at it under a microscope, and you can see the piece of contamination.
Now, can't you get fish eyes if it's a little cold?
No, typically, I've seen. So somebody called me with a tech question, and they were having fish eyes, but when they sprayed it, even the same day after it's dry, the booth is off. They're looking, it looked great. The next day he'd come in, there's fish eyes everywhere. And it wasn't fish eyes. It was solvent craters that were happening. The solvent wasn't evacuating out of the paint. It looked great after he sprayed it, but he would come in and there's craters everywhere. Well, solvent is coming out. Solvent is coming out of the paint. It's not part of the paint. It completely evaporates, right? It's all its job is to keep the paint wet in the cup, in the transition to the panel, while it's on the panel self-leveling, and then it gets out of Dodge. Literally, it's a transfer vehicle, just like a dump truck is a vehicle for dirt, and then the vehicle goes away. You have to look at solvent that way too. So when you trap solvent by overcoating, or maybe it's too cold and it dries on the top, but it's still spongy in the middle, that solvent is coming out. And it's designed to come out in a mist, in a VOC, evenly out the wet top, right? And then it cross-links at the same time as the solvent evacuates. It's a super sophisticated chemistry thing that has to happen for paint to dry properly. People have no idea. I mean, it's just amazing that technology exists, that it can all come and do its happy dance at the same time. And when you interfere with that by it being too cold to paint, you trap that solvent in there. So solvent is like water. It's going to find the path of least resistance, and it's coming out. So what it's going to do is concentrate into pockets. Those pockets are coming out the top, and they'll break through. And when the solvent goes away, it leaves a crater.
It's a solvent pop.
Yes, 100%. And
I remember you told me once the reducer is the evil part.
It is.
And you just got to get it on the car and then back out of the car.
Yeah, and you have to.
And if you think about that way, it helps you paint.
It does. Well, it helps you choose your chemistry. And I say chemistry because people get freaked out. Chemistry, no, slow, medium, fast. That's what we have. and it's 60 to 70 degrees, 70 to 80 degrees, and 80 to 100 degrees. That's our ranges. And if we're painting and accessing those temperature ranges, we know what to reach for. If we go outside of that and we break the rules, then we have problems. And it's as simple as that, but it's hard to lock into those fixes. It takes, I don't know, whatever. But new painters if you can lock yourself into understanding that you have to pay attention to temperature, you're really going to do yourself some favors when it comes to either troubleshooting, diagnosing your problems, or not having them in the first place. Temperature is really, really important.
There you go.
Yeah.
What have we got? Annie, my husband Colin is watching. Greetings from New Zealand. Greetings. Phil Buckley, g'day Annie and Colin. Now here's an interesting comment. Vilefly, I can hear my daughter scream in the bathroom whilst her mother teaches her about near hair removing cream. A day that will live in infamy, no doubt. Sorry if I'm distracted. See, now, we were talking earlier before we started this, and I was telling TC that sometimes the conversations just take a right turn, and it's like, this is a car show. So, yeah, there's an example.
Well, at least I might golf balls a minute ago.
Had golf balls a minute ago, yeah. And aerodynamics. It's like, yeah. Don's Manufacturing. My car has 8 little legs indelibly stuck in the top of this car.
Yep.
Break them off legs, let it dry.
Yeah. So the spider was legless at that point.
Yeah.
But not in a good way.
No.
Oh dear. Someone's talking about Johnny Bravo. I use 99% alcohol ISO IPA. It's more expensive, and I'm not real sure it's necessary.
Yeah, 99%. Yeah, I was taught a lesson with 99% ISO. When you wipe down in 100 degrees in your booth, a fiberglass camper shell, and you wipe it down with alcohol, 99% isopropyl, or 93% is all we could get. You can literally see the sparks with the alcohol igniting because of the static electricity on the fiberglass.
Wow.
It was so freaking hot in the booth, and I was wiping it down with alcohol because it's an anti-stat for fiberglass.
Right.
As my final wipe before I sprayed, and it was 100 plus. And this, an almost pure alcohol, was starting on fire as I was wiping this thing off. So
that's not a good thing.
No. So I started cutting my alcohol with 20% distilled water. So
there you go. So it would appear 99% is not necessary.
It's a taste
possibly
just a little hot.
Not recommended.
Yeah. How do you handle the temperature changes during a paint job? Easy. Small batches.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so the differential in temperature between daylight and dark in any continent on the planet is about 40 degrees. We're going to have a 40-degree temperature change between daylight and dark. Doesn't matter what your temperatures are, there's going to be that much of a delta between how cold it is and how warm it gets. So you're going to have changes. So you have a large paint job, it's going to take several hours, right? So if you mix up all of your paint at 9 a.m., according to the temperature of your air, your booth, and your surface, and if it takes you 4 hours to paint, you're out of range. Now you've got 70-degree chemistry that you're spraying at 90 degrees. If you mix up a batch every 30 minutes, you mix up small batches.
You can change your reducers.
You change your reducers as the temperature changes. So here's the thing about that.
That makes perfect sense.
There's no guessing in painting. You have to have these point and shoot thermometers, the little laser thermometers.
Yep.
Super great. You guys mechanics, you can see if there's a dead hole in an engine, right?
Yep.
I use those things to get the average temperature in my room so I know which reducer and which harder to grab for. Surface temperature is key. If I have a car that's been sitting in the booth overnight in the wintertime, I could turn my booth heater on. And I can, because I've got a booth heater, right? It's cool. Right. It's a great tool to have. And it's 70 degrees in the shop. But that car has been cold soaking all night.
Right.
And it might be 55 degrees by the time I got my paint mixed up. It doesn't matter what the air temperature is on top of it.
It's what the paint's landing on.
It's what the paint's landing on. So you have to understand. So when I say small batches, you're going to be sampling the temperature as you progress in the paint job. And maybe you've got a sealer coat that's 75 degrees. Maybe you do sealer and you let it flash, and then you do your color and it's 85 degrees. You got to set your point and shoot thermometer understanding that you have to be within those chemistry temperature ranges and just work your way up.
Doesn't the surface cool a little bit when you spray it and it outgasses?
The evaporation factor.
I would say so. Yeah.
Because like with your booth, you can control your booth. I can't that much.
Right.
And boy, I fight it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I don't want to paint no more. I'm done with the painting. But not being able to control the booth is brutal.
Yeah, it is.
Especially in the wintertime.
Yeah.
You know? So like if I am going to paint, it takes me a while to get that car up to temperature. And then once it's up to temperature and I start painting and everything starts cooling down, there's nothing I can do to get that car warm again. Yeah. If I try to warm the car, I warm the air and it sheets.
Yeah.
Right.
My first.
Yeah. Well, you're looking at 3,500 pounds of metal.
Yeah.
And once it takes on a temperature, it doesn't change from that.
Yeah. And if that thing gets colder than the outside air, then you got a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first body shop had this homemade cinder block paint booth, and the filters were in the outside doors. It was 2 swing doors that were wood, and the filters were in the outside to the outside. So painting in the wintertime was a super challenge with this booth. I could fit it was a full-size booth. I could fit a full car in there. But in the wintertime, what I would have to do I would get my car in there. I would get a kerosene, I used to call them a torpedo heater. Those heaters.
Yeah.
It would sit in there on full for like an hour and a half, and it would heat up the booth walls, the floor, the ceiling, and the vehicle. And then I would pre-clean and do all that type of stuff with no air on. You have to have air moving across your paint job, right? It demands that. Your paint needs air movement. It needs adequate airflow. You have to have something going across the top of it. So I would do a coat of paint, let it flash, or let the overspray get out, and then shut the booth down as soon as shut the fan off. And then I would turn the heater back on for another 20 minutes. And then I would do my next coat. I would shut the heater off and then turn the fan on, and it was pulling cold air, but the metal on the car didn't care. There was enough heat stuck in there. So it was this dance that I had to do to get a paint job done. Turn the heater on with the booth off. Wait, and then clean, and then do a coat with So, but I got it done. Yeah, and it taught me a lot about how paint, or what it needs to make it happy.
Right?
Because I had to. There was no choice. I had to pay the rent on the building, and I had to pay the mortgage on the house. So I had to get this stinking. I couldn't stop painting in the wintertime, right?
Well, another thing you taught me that I think a lot is you always said you have time.
Yeah.
So that there's this anxiety that builds up when you're painting, and it just feels like you got to go. But you slow it down and take your time.
Take a breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the hardest thing to do when we've got time pressure, when we've got stuff built up. That's just life. It's the hardest thing to do to slow down and be in the moment. I've printed this poster and I've got it up on the wall of my office, and it says head, heart, and feet all in the same place. And it's like, I look at that and I go, okay, calm down, experience the moment that you're in, and solve the problem that's in front of you. And but it's the hardest thing in the world to do when we're stacked up with the stuff in front of us, right?
Well, that and staying disciplined not to put on that one more coat right there, come around it and just one more wet coat.
I'm bad for doing that.
Yeah, I am too.
And Donald Rice, love watching TC. You got a fan?
All right.
You got a fan?
Yep.
Listen to him. He knows his shit.
School of Hard Knocks. I've learned to
the University of Life. Yeah.
Yeah, I started working on cars in '85 in Nashville.
What?
Mrs. Kiwi's in the house. Kiwi Mars. Did he offer you refreshments, gentlemen?
Yes, ma'am.
They're still going.
Yes.
I've about run out. So if you see me disappear briefly, we're actually running a little low on time. It's gone 9 o'clock, but we're only actually an hour and 38 minutes in, which tells you how much time we lost talking to ourselves when we weren't live and we thought we were.
We were just pretending.
Yeah.
Does anybody still paint with lacquer these days, or is it all urethane these days?
It's pretty much outlawed lacquer, isn't it? Really?
It is. There's so much VOC in lacquer that it's illegal to use in big metropolitan areas. That said, I know there's still some instrument makers that use lacquer. Guitar manufacturers sometimes still use lacquer, but for the most part, nobody does anymore.
No. Johnny Brown was saying, are you talking about mixing up slow, medium, and fast activator? Well, not together, but mixing up the use of it, right? Mixing up when you use it.
No, I'm talking about if it's 70 degrees in your booth, using 70 to 80 degree chemistry. And then when your booth changes, change your chemistry. If it goes from 80 to 90, it's 85, well, you're 70 degree. So make sure that your paint system has choices for you. Some of the less expensive paint systems have paint and hardener, and they don't give you a choice. Move to something that does. Move to a more sophisticated chemistry that's not that much more expensive, but the better paints, the better quality paints always give you options for temperature because it's really important. So what I'm saying is follow your temperature. Your temperature is your guide. You have to respond to that. That's all.
Donald Rice, TC needs to make videos. TC makes videos, buddy.
Yes.
Go and check him out. Bay One Customs.
Yep.
So it's BAYONE, like the word one. Bay One Customs, and he's got a bunch of videos up there.
Years of them, and there's some with us on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking a bit younger, but and he's got an awesome series of videos on his Dodge Charger that he put onto a Hellcat. Like did a body swap, 69 Charger to Hellcat, and that's an awesome series of videos.
Yeah,
well worth watching. But yeah, go and check him out. Like and subscribe.
You probably got videos of Jaded on there, don't you?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And
Chris
and
on that part too.
Yeah.
So I was looking through all these file folders of photos. I've got thousands and thousands of photos over the years, and I saw us all in the same room
That's a good one.
working on Jaded.
High humidity.
Ooh. What's the question?
Yeah, how you deal with high humidity? That's a brutal one.
It is a brutal one. Yeah. I remember when we were still using lacquer clears in body shops, high humidity, it would literally blush the clear. It would get this bluish greenish. It looked like oil on water.
Oh, wow.
And clouded up and all that kind of stuff. And we had to wait until that dissipated. It was moisture trapped in the lacquer clear. And we would have to wait till that. Once it flashed to where that was gone, then you were okay to put the next coat on. But if you ever coated on top of that, then it trapped that cloud. It was terrible, terrible. So humidity is a bear cat.
I wait till it's low.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially a semi-gloss.
We've got a very special viewer on here.
Conrad
Slim.
Hey, man.
That's my boy. How you doing, man? Chris, you're looking a little old these days. Yes, well, thank you very much, son. It's easy to be brave when you're on the other side of a keyboard, isn't it? Yes, I may be looking a little bit old, but I'd still put my money on me if we needed to. But yeah, good to have you, here with us, buddy. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you.
And Conrad's in Texas, right?
No, he's in Memphis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
medical
Why
school
did I
in
think
Memphis.
Texas?
He was in Texas.
Okay.
He was in Texas.
All right. Sorry,
and,
man.
Now he's in Memphis. Living dangerously in Memphis.
A good friend of mine, Ron Ryan, is in Texas.
Oh, right. Yeah, Ron. Yeah, I know Ron.
Back to the humidity thing.
Oh, yep.
With your booth with the heat in it, does that control your humidity?
Yes. So my booth has it's a 1.2 million BTU flame that's about this high in the column of air coming down into the booth. So even if it's in the summertime and it's warm in the booth, and if it's raining, if it's like today, like 94% humidity, I'm turning that burner on because it scrubs off moisture in the column of air coming into the booth. So it helps mitigate that. It doesn't take all of it out. You still have some humidity in the ambient air, but in the booth air coming through, that is really what we're worried about. It's like I said, the paint booth heater is a beautiful tool. It's a very expensive tool, but it helps me do the same work regardless of the climate and the conditions. So yeah, it's a good question. So how do I manage that without a booth heater? Because not everybody has a booth heater. Sometimes we don't even have a booth. Sometimes we're putting plastic on the ceiling and the walls and making a homemade booth out of PVC piping. That's very, very common. And you guys have to manage that. So the best advice I can give you is basically what TC said. Pick a day to where you don't have 100% humidity. Pick a day to where it's not 105 degrees out. Or if you have a day that it's 105 degrees out, paint at 4 a.m. when it's 75 degrees. So there's not much you can do to manage the atmosphere. Despite what people say, you can't change the clouds and stuff like that. We can't, certainly as technicians and painters, but we can access the period of time in which we do the work and apply the products. So what that means is that we can access a cooler part of the day if it's hot outside, and we can find a dry day to spray. Because if you can do it one weekend, you can do it the next weekend when it's not going to rain, right?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you another question. Have you noticed that rattle can paint is more sensitive to the humidity?
Yes, absolutely.
So like I am spraying some of the rattle can. If it's not 35% or below, I won't even try to spray it.
Do you know why?
Mm.
It's because of the high concentration of solvent in that rattle can. So if you look at the fluid tip of the rattle can, it's the size of the head of a pin. It's a tiny orifice. So that paint in there can't be thick. It has to be super mixed with a lot of solvent, right? It's very low solids material. So the solvent is affected by the humidity because it takes it in, not in the can, but as soon as it hits atmosphere, then it's affected by it. So it's hypersensitive. It's like a kid with allergies. It's hypersensitive to the humidity more so than a professional product would be.
Well, let me ask you another question. When you mix your Bondo in high humidity, is it true that humidity surface, traps the hardener and makes it harden faster? Because the hardener doesn't outgas like it would without the humidity layer out there?
I don't know enough about that to answer that question.
But it does harden. It does harden faster in high humidity days.
I think it kicks faster, yes.
Is that the humidity or just the heat?
The humidity. So if it's real humidity, mix up filler.
Yeah.
It fires fast. I mean, you're down to putting just a little bit of amount in there to not fire so fast. And what I was told is that humidity, which is water in the air, traps that solvent, that hardening agent.
Yeah.
And it's like having extra in it. Is that
supercharges it?
The catalyst in body filler is benzoyl peroxide. With fiberglass, it's MEKP, methyl ethyl
Professor
ketone
Kevin
peroxide.
here.
So no, but it's a paste form of MEKP. But it's probably I don't know. I'm not enough of a chemist. My friend Tim McKinley from ITW Everco could probably answer this in a second. I wish he was here, but I don't know enough about the chemistry to answer why. But I've had that happen too. So I do know that on a super humid day, I'm either mixing smaller batches or I'm using a little bit less of the catalyst in it. You can over and under catalyze body filler by as much as 2% on either side. And the ratio is it's 50-to-1 ratio, but it's 2% by weight. So I don't know. Question for you guys. Have you ever been in a shop that weighs the catalyst in the body filler? How about you guys out there?
Yeah.
No. It's always just eyeball it.
Yeah.
Like, you need about that much.
Yeah.
And sometimes it hits faster than you want and you waste a bit. And then the next batch you just do it a little bit weaker and it's just all by eye.
Yeah.
But I've never had a problem with the integrity of it. Is that?
No, it'll still cross-link if you mix it properly. The difference is in the hardness of it between batches. So the guys that I know that weigh their catalyst are high-end custom shops. And if they're wiping a whole car to surface a whole car, they want consistency from batch to batch. So they use the scale.
Yeah. So because that's one thing that is hard with Bondo is to block it.
Right.
So that way it cuts even?
Yeah, and that's why the spray-on polyester primers have become so popular, is because you've got a consistent layer
Absolutely
over the whole car and it all sands the same way.
So if you have a little less
you're
catalyst,
doing your blocking strokes and you're not hitting a hard bit, a soft bit, a hard bit. And then
as opposed to skimming a whole car with fillers.
Yeah, because Tim Strange is a master at that. Like, I've never Strange Motion.
Yep.
Strange Motion custom. He mixes up like a massive amount of Bondo. I'll do a little bit, and mix it and spread it and mess with it and then do the next bit. He'll do like quart.
Yeah.
And mix it, and he just puts it on so fast, and he gets it spread over a large area, so he's got consistency, which is what you're talking about with the guys that weigh it out. It's a similar thing. Yeah. But he'll do a whole quarter in one batch of like a 69 Charger, which we know how big that quarter is. It's huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, but he, big spreaders, and it's like.
Now, have you ever messed with was it called Bondo honey? It was a thinner. Does that?
I have, and that's a fix, but it's not a great solution. I was sitting in a seminar. Actually, we did a roundtable at an instructors conference up in Minneapolis last year, and the Evercoat guy was there. And somebody asked that question because we were doing a myth busting thing. It was fascinating. Myth busting, like, does the battery really discharge on a concrete floor? Well, no, it doesn't. And here's why. So we did all these.
So it doesn't. No. I'm glad I've learned that today.
No, it doesn't.
Because I've always been told that. I mean, I still put my batteries on a piece of wood.
No, but it's a complete myth. It does not affect the charge of a battery at all. So, but one of the things was that the honey additive or fiberglass resin in filler to make it less viscous and
that's
spread
all
out.
honey additive is. It's just resin, isn't it?
It's resin, but it's not
Or
just fiberglass resin.
okay.
Yeah, it's a product, but
Right. Okay.
but it's a short-term fix, but it makes the filler more brittle. But they have a product. Evercoat has a body filler called Extra Ultra or Ultra Extra, and it's got an open window. You could spread it on this table and it wouldn't kick. You could mix enough to do this, or a roof skin, and it wouldn't kick. But you can't get on it. You can't start blocking it for like 45 minutes. But it's designed to stay open for long enough to put it on super large surface areas. And that's what it's designed for. And with the right catalyst add, you're respecting the recipe of the chemist that developed that stuff, right? And when you add stuff like honey and fiberglass resin and stuff, my dad taught me to use fiberglass resin in filler. And it was a great tip, but it was incorrect as far as the chemistry goes. So, there's fixes, there's get-arounds. But there's also a product made for what you're trying to do, and
so that U-Pole product that you showed me today, is that a new product?
That's new, yeah. So what we're talking about, okay, is if you've ever worked bodywork, and I'm sure you guys have, and by the way, hello from Alberta. It's nice that you're watching, and thank you for watching the Garbage Camaro stuff too. Somebody also commented, but we were pinholes in body filler. They're air pockets that get mixed into it.
Yeah.
And they just manifest. And when you spray primer or paint over top of them, it breaks your heart because you've got this crater.
Yeah.
And you
don't see it when you're sanding it.
You don't see it when you're sanding it. But if you do see it, then you can take some catalyzed filler and you can smear it in with a razor blade is typically my trick.
Yeah.
A really kind of a bad idea that sometimes works is to take a paint touch-up brush after you've primed or painted and then touch up the craters. But that's not a great idea because
you leave a void underneath.
You still got an air void underneath, and it's going to sink.
Yeah.
So there's this new product that you wipe on. It's a 1K. It's not catalyzed, but it dries super hard and super fast. So you wipe it over top of the pinholes. It fills them in, forms a skin over top that's level with the rest of the surface, and now you can prime it. It completely permanently fills them in. It's a wonderful thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's no more messing around with a little spreader and resanding and all that type of stuff. Very cool. There's so much innovation in these chemicals and the products that we're using. It's just amazing what's out there. And
wow.
Yeah. So it's very cool.
Chris Cadman, Kiwi, did you go to the showroom when the new Model T Fords came on the market? Okay. I think I can block him. There's a button here somewhere.
So
I think I can block him.
Barry Kuda says, any tips for painting at night outside in the rain? Barry, you're cut off. No more bourbon for you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people.
No, even Kevin can't pull that one off.
No.
Oh, he's good, but
No,
he ain't that good.
No, just because you can doesn't mean you should. How's that? How's that for an answer? Some people whip air into the filler. Yeah, for sure. Most of the air pockets in filler are from stirring it around and stuff like that.
Right.
And I made the mistake one time. I threw the body filler on the paint shaker.
Oh, jeez.
Because I saw resin on the top when I opened the can. It just aerates the whole thing. So you're guaranteed for the life of that product.
So you
Forever.
screwed the can.
Yep, the whole can.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More bourbon, Chris Cadman says. Yep.
Oh, bourbon, yes. Indeed, yes, it dulls the pain of people's viewers' insults about your age.
Here's interesting. Dawn's Manufactory, if it used to, back when batteries had Bakelite cases. So the reason a battery won't discharge on concrete is because the plastic is a barrier to electrolysis. you can't get electrical current transfer through the plastic case. But Bakelite, you know what Bakelite is,
No.
right?
Is that like hard plastic?
It's a
that they used in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, and like the old knobs and stuff like that.
They go brittle and break.
Right, and distributor caps used to be made out of Bakelite. It's plastic-ish, but it's not. It's the first form of plastic, but it's not a petroleum base. So what he's saying is that would let the lead acid or electricity get influenced by the concrete and ground it or something like that. Interesting. I'm gonna look into that. That's an interesting thing. I hope it's not a theory. I hope it's.
I'll still probably have to put my batteries on a piece of wood. I've done it for so long.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's a bit of an old wives' tale, but there's some element, like so many old wives' tales, there's an element of truth to it. But I think it comes from the cold.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Because batteries do not like cold.
No.
Like that's when your battery's going to fail, is either on the hottest day of the year or the coldest day of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They don't like extremes of heat. I mean, ask Elon and Tesla. Like batteries don't like extreme heat or extreme.
Yeah, and it's amazing how cold the floor stays.
Yeah.
In my shop, it's warm, but if I get on my creeper and lay around on the floor for a while,
and I think that's what knocks the batteries around a little bit. And I think that's created that old wives' tale, that myth that it discharges them. I don't think I think it's the cold that discharges them, not the fact that it's on the floor.
Yeah.
Because if it's on a piece of wood on the floor, it's still on the floor, but that wood's an insulator.
Yeah.
So I tried the plastic honey with Bondo. This is Johnny Bravo 1, and had to remove it from the panel. It remained gummy and couldn't sand it. Okay, so if you find that your body filler has got a film, like a sticky film on top of it, take some acetone or lacquer thinner. Of course, wear gloves, but take some acetone and wipe that off the top of it, because that resin will float to the top. Even in like a humid day or a cooler day, you'll get that sticky resin layer with kind of like when a gloved hand will smuck, it'll make that smucking sound. Take it, even if it's ready to block, that resin layer is going to clog up your first round of paper, right?
Time,
Take some acetone, wipe it off the top, and you can powder like butter. So that might have helped him with that, but that always helps me when I'm trying to get on it right away. Just wipe that resin layer off of it.
Yeah, back decades ago, the Bondo would always, in my recollection, back in New Zealand, would always have a sticky surface on it, and we would always, like, we called them cheese grater, like a rasp, and take that layer off, and then you could sand it. Without clogging the paper. But if you went straight to 40 grit sandpaper when it was tacky on the top, that was it.
That used to be SOP for all body filler.
Right.
The Bondo brand. You rasp it out and rough out shape and then come back with your paper.
Yeah, you couldn't start with paper. These days, the Bondos, you can go straight to 40 grit and the way it's seen.
Well, and in today's fillers, you can get on them with a 180 and block them down nicely. They powder so well.
Yeah.
I always thought having a battery off a floor was to stop it from seeping discharge. I don't know if you're seeping through the battery case and you I don't know. I always have a battery on the floor with wood or something like that. Yeah, TC does too. So
batteries draining was a temperature difference, which is what we were just talking about. Yeah, Mythbusters proved that. Yeah, it's the cold, and the floor is cold.
Tim Miller says, "Have you used Sickens paint?" I have. I was told it harder was reducer. Got the gal blue Sorry, man. I don't really know what you're saying. I've used Sickens a lot. Axo Nobel is the company that has Sickens brand. I was at one time certified as a Sickens painter. I've been to their tech and training schools for sure. So I'm familiar with that brand for sure.
Barry Cooter, he's saying just what. I mean, a lot of you guys do know what you're doing. Like Barry Cooter. In the cold weather, to speed up drying of filler, I give it a quick sand with a coarse sandpaper and wipe it over with lacquer thinners.
Yep.
So
that's the cool thing. It's like the YouTube videos that I put out. People comment. I love it when people comment, even when they disagree completely with what I'm doing, because there's always something to learn. And there's always something you can pass on. And I look at it like it's a privilege to have a conversation. I could never talk to the viewers on the TV shows, but I can talk to the guys that are watching my YouTube videos. So it's really cool.
Exactly. Tech bits and pieces. I'm learning more the longer I'm here. Well, good, man. That's awesome. That I'm kind of speaking for you guys here, but that's cool when you can share some of that knowledge.
Yep.
It's really quite rewarding.
Yep.
It's
and I'm getting smarter the more bourbon I sip. So cheers. We're all trying to read the same comment.
Funny how in the US you call body full of Bondo, and here in Oz it's called bog.
Bog, yeah.
Bog.
Yeah. You bog up a car. You don't Bondo it up, you bog it up. Because Bondo's a brand, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It was the first one to market.
Mm.
And here's some trivia for you. It was brought to market as a alternative to lead body repair in 1952. And it had a horrible reputation because guys tried to use it like lead.
Take you on trivia nights, I think.
Well, if there was auto body trivia at the local,
he would win.
Yeah, I would win for sure. No, but that's why Bondo got its horrible reputation, because people were trying to stack it like they would stack lead, and it would fracture and fall out of the repairs. You can stack lead an inch thick, right? If you do it right, if you tin properly, and if you smooth it out. There's those 50s customs guys, they would make incredible sculptures on panels with lead.
Wow.
But you can't do that with a plastic filter. It's not made for it. 1/4 inch max thickness. That's your goal. 1/4 inch. No more. Hopefully less.
Yeah, because when they say Bondo buggies and stuff like that, every high dollar car to car show's got a skim on it,
Everyone does. Every single one does, yeah.
Well, I mean, I remember going into Fusa's shop quite a few years ago now, and they had a couple of there. They had a 32, I think it was a 32, that kind of era Ford, and that was hammer and filed, and like that was super straight. And I really, like a coat of high build primer would have got it there. It was so it can be done, but it's massive amount of hours.
Yeah,
hammer and filing, like just. I remember a guy years back, and he was building hot rods in New Zealand, and he's like, if you want it hammer and filed, it's 10 times the labor.
Yeah,
10 times. Now, given that a lot of these hot rods are getting 5,000 hours on them, multiply that by 10.
Yeah.
But that's what all these products are made for, is a tool.
Yeah.
To get you to that point.
Yeah.
Without doing that.
But you can hammer and file and make it metal beautifully straight, but the hours is phenomenal. And you got to find someone who has the patience to do it.
So I want to answer one more tech question, and we got a big day at work tomorrow. So
it's getting late. It's already, it's 9:30.
But this is a good question, and I've got a really good tip for this. End of Time wants to know, is there a limit you guys have on a gun when it should be replaced? I'm assuming you're talking about a spray gun. So here's what I do with my guns that are getting a little bit long in the tooth. Everybody's got one of these, right? So you've got a really great camera. What I do is look at my gun look straight into the air cap, where you can see the needle and seat in that center of that air cap. And I take 2 pictures of it. I take a picture of it closed, and I take a picture of it with the trigger pulled with it open.
Wow.
So what that shows, and then you can take the picture on your phone and you can expand it, right? So you can see the micro detail of the condition of your needle and seat valve, because that's what it is. It's a needle and seat valve that opens and closes and lets air and fluid into a mixture that is then atomized by the different air pressures in the airports. But you can look at the condition of your fluid tip. So many times, even a gun, if it falls just a little bit, even if it's a stainless steel tip, they can be easily damaged. And if that needle and seat, even over time, has been worn, sometimes they'll oblong, sometimes they'll get offset.
Right.
If the needle is bent and it wears constantly for a couple of years of use, it's metal on metal.
Yeah.
So you can see the distortion in that. So check your guns out like that. And I do mine about once every couple of years. And then if I see that it's offset, or if it's wallowed out or something like that, I don't replace the gun. I'll buy a new needle and seat set.
Right.
For my SATA guns, the retail price on those guns is about $1,200. Wow. I don't want to replace them every year.
No.
But a needle and seat set is $200. So that's a way easier way to keep the gun that you love, that you know inside out and backwards, and keep the mechanism that's the most important functional. So you're welcome for that. Take pictures of it. Look at those macro images of that, and you can really analyze when it does need to be replaced, and what it might be manifesting in like a weird spray pattern too, like an offset hole in your needle and seat. It might be heavy on one side.
Got to be, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So, and it's just a good way to keep up with your equipment. It's we forget sometimes that basic maintenance has to happen on every tool. And a spray gun, man, it's the heart of the whole thing. And they're expensive. And so to get a super tight look at that, use this and just get a tight shot of it, and listen to your equipment when it talks to you as well.
All right, guys, we could literally be here all night, I think, between the three of us and all you guys, someone saying, how toxic chroming is, but the subjects just go on and on.
Yeah.
But, these boys do have a big day tomorrow, and they've been working a long, hard day. And, we've just gone out over our 2 hours, and we're about half an hour behind schedule. So, yeah, it's getting late. So Kevin, TC, thank you so much for coming along.
Man,
it's
thanks
been
for
a
having
lot of fun. I've learned stuff. Hopefully you guys have learned stuff. And yeah, the number one question now to be answered is, when are we doing it again?
I'll get my people to talk to your people, and your people can talk to his people, and then we'll have a meeting. We'll get a Zoom going.
Luckily, all of our people are here right now.
I say we do this on a pretty regular basis, because this is fun. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've never done it before, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Some of the things the guys say, are genuinely funny, and some of them are insulting when you talk about how old I look, but that's all right. I'm tough.
Well, take it.
It's all good.
Yeah, this won't be the last time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we will do it again. Thanks, Tech Bits and Pieces. Thanks for your contribution. I will make sure and buy a bottle of bourbon with that, and we will drink it next time we're back. Does that sound fair? And to the rest of you, thanks for joining in. Thanks for all the comments. Again, thank you guys, and we're going to call it a night and go to bed.
Yeah.
You guys have got to drive to go. I got to walk about 20 feet, and I'm done.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for everybody. I just want to say one last time for subscribing to all of our channels.
Yeah.
We love the comments. We live for that. And thanks for hitting the button and all that kind of stuff. We really appreciate you guys watching, and it just means the world that you guys are following us along while we live out our dreams. So thank you. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Look these guys up. They're well worth the effort. And see you guys.
See ya.